What's good, everybody? So today we've got another good react by our good friend here, Soless. Wuthering Waves is a better game than Genshin Impact. More reasons why part 2. I'm pretty sure the first version of this he did had like 45, 50k views at this point. People really want to know why Wuthering is better. You know what? We're a bunch of glazers for our faith gachas. I mean, it is what it is. So we're gonna watch the very handsome bald man here and see what he has to say about Wuthering Waves and why it's better than Genshin Impact Part 2. We're gonna see if I agree, because y'all know sometimes I have a bit of a spicy opinion. We're gonna see if I agree. So let's have a peek. Subscribe!
Yo, who wants to have sex?
In case anybody was wondering, nothing much has changed since the last video. Wuthering Waves is still a better game than Genshin Impact, and it looks like a lot of you seem to agree. My last video on this topic has over 3,700 likes and an 89% like to dislike ratio as of this recording. For those of you who may not be super familiar with what is normal for a YouTube video, that is an insanely good ratio for such a controversial topic.
Very
so
true.
Now, here we are with the inevitable part 2 video.
Yippee!
Many of you asked for this, and
Part
I'm sure a lot of you guys know Sticks. When he reacted to my video, he even said that I have to do a part 2 because there were some things that I missed. If you haven't seen the first video, make sure to go check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. Additionally, this is probably going to be the last video that I make comparing Genshin Impact to
No. Okay, Soless. The #1 rule of content creation is gacha. It's farming, right? It's the number 1 rule. So you're gonna farm this at least, I want to say, once every 2 months at minimum, saying why War is really good or why Genshin is dog shit, right?
This is for a couple reasons. First, I don't want to continue beating a dead horse, Genshin Impact being the dead horse. And second, there are only so many things to compare. Eventually, it's just going to get really stupid, like, oh man, look at this blade of grass. Look at the water. It's so much better. But no.
Actually, though, if you really look at it, the water animations in Wuthering Waves are just better than Genshin Impact, really. So, I know you're joking, Soless, but actually, it's true.
For this video, I actually have another legit list of things to compare that I think makes Wuthering Waves a better game than Genshin Impact. So, let's dive right into it. Hey, if you're new here on my channel, my name is Soless. Thanks for stopping by. I make videos about gacha games, commentary, guides, and one of my videos that's upcoming is even about lore. So if that's the kind of stuff that you like to see,
you guys
please
know
consider hitting
I'm
the
not
subscribe
a
button.
lore.
I would greatly appreciate it.
I'm not a lore nerd,
the first
but
topic
I love
that I
a good,
want to cover today could be none other than character designs and character models. Is it just me, or is it the case that the character designs in Genshin Impact have taken a nosedive off of a cliff since around the time that Furina came out? I don't think it's just me. Furina, both her character design and her as a character,
Furina's
is by far
cool.
one of my favorites in Genshin Impact.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
But I have been very much
really
not impressed with most of the designs that I've seen since then. There are a couple of exceptions to that. Arlecchino and Kiori were pretty good.
All the Fontaine ones, I think, were really good. I liked the water girl in Natlan when she came out. I thought Cabinetz was also really cool. The Natlan characters that I saw that I knew were like, okay, this is gonna suck. What's her name? Chaska? Chaska looks so bad. Chaska dead ass looks like a 4-star. I think Zelonen looks pretty coll too, but it doesn't feel as good as some of the Fontaine characters. No.
Good. Clarand was okay, but let's talk about some of the characters that came after that. Sethos, hot garbage. Sizrin, nope. Emily was so non-exciting that I even noticed tons of the Genshin Impact community.
No, okay, but wait, hold up. I want to defend her a minute. I think she's kind of trash, right? But when she came out and it was actually like in-game and people saw her like in-game model and everything like that, people changed their minds. They were like, actually, she's really cool. So this was one that the community, I feel like, changed their minds on when she actually came out properly.
Trash talking her. That's how you know it's bad. Katsina and Cabinetz, I don't know if I'm saying that
I like
right,
Cabinetz.
but no,
Cabinetz
absolutely
cool.
not.
I disagree.
You know
Cabinetz
what?
is really cool. Stop. He was dope.
Design quite a bit. Her design is super cute, so she gets a pass. And I really want to hit on Chaska. Chaska's design could be worse, but
No,
to
it's
me,
bad.
she looks
It's bad.
incredibly boring.
Yes,
she looks
she's a
like an
4-star.
OnlyFans pirate that you would find at a shitty Halloween party.
Oh my
and
God.
Speaking of parties, let's talk about Auroron, however you say it. This is
Auroron.
the worst character design in all of Genshin Impact.
All right, I have to dislike this video now. Listen, does Auroron look like a dumbass VTuber from a teenager? Yes. Do I still think it kind of looks cool? Yeah, I do. He looks so edgy, and I think I like that. I couldn't disagree more. Is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? I don't know. I think Aurora looks cool, man.
My opinion, and it's not even close. If you took him to a freak off and doused him in 100 bottles of baby oil, P. Diddy would still kick his ass out. And here's the one that could
What
have
are
really
you
brought me
talking
back
about?
into the game.
Huh?
The Pyro Archon. Hoyoverse just released a bunch of stuff about Mavuka, and I gotta give credit where credit is due. It
Mavuka?
definitely looks like they're branching out and trying something new with this one.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean they brought on the designers from Zenless Zone Zero because she looks like she belongs on the back roads with Caesar and Bernice. But hey,
Yeah,
if you want
'cause
to
she
do
got a
another
cool
shower
bike,
scene
bro.
and throw Mavuka in there, you won't catch me
Fire!
complaining about it. But the whole bike thing just seems really weird to me, and I really want to like her design, but no matter how hard I
But
try,
what?
I just can't. To me, she just doesn't look like she is from the same universe or like she belongs in the same game.
No,
Now, as far as the character
that I do agree with. I really do like the Pyro Archon's design, but like it doesn't. I don't know if it screams Pyro Archon, and nor does it scream Genshin. To be honest, maybe there's a reason for that. I don't know, but it really does feel a bit like off in some way. But I still think it looks cool. I appreciate they're trying something different, you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna give it too hard of a time for that specifically.
models themselves, they just don't look as good as the character models from Wuthering Waves, in my opinion.
Oh,
their
yeah.
facial expressions, their movements, the
1,000,000%.
animations, just everything.
And there's so
Now,
much
this might
variety
be
in the
somewhat
faces, too.
related to the game engines that are used in each game. I'm not sure, but Genshin Impact uses a game engine that was built off of the Unity engine, and Wuthering Waves uses the Unreal Engine. But in terms of character designs, Wuthering Waves just takes the cake with all of the characters that they've released so far, in my opinion, with the exception of a few. They've released
Wasn't there a thing, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there a thing where like Genshin wants to move away from Unity? Or am I like remembering something completely wrong? Am I crazy? Massive change from Unity game engine business model that could impact Genshin. This is what I'm thinking of. Unity game engine that Hoyoverse used for generating Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail has announced dramatic changes to Unity business model, which will see it introduce a monthly fee per new game install beginning on 1st of January next year. As of 1st of January 2024, developers will be expected to pay an additional monthly Unity runtime fee per the new game install, seemingly including reinstalls and installs across multiple devices, on top of their existing license subscription, with those fees kicking in for the titles have made 200k or more in the last 12 months. Ooh, okay. Like, did they go through with that? I don't know, but I just remember that being like a thing.
characters like Yin Lin, Jin Shi, Chan Li Yao, and my personal favorite, Camellia. Kuro Games has also just
You
released
just
the
wanted to
drip
do this
marketing
one?
for
Alright,
the
bet.
version 2.0 characters, and the internet has gone absolutely wild. They released drip marketing for 5 characters, and they hit the mark with every single one of them. Everybody seems to be really excited about Zani the most, but my personal favorite is Carlotta. And I usually don't care for
Brad.
male characters
No,
quite as much,
Brad's the best
but
one.
Brant has
Brad's the best
definitely
one.
got my attention.
Yep, he's
Depending
cool.
on what his kit is, that is definitely a male character that I would consider pulling. All right, hold on. I'll be right back. Sorry, I had to get some popcorn for all of the comments that I can already see coming. Hey, now, make sure you guys keep it respectful.
I like Soless, man. I like that he's putting more of his personality into his videos, bro. I'm so glad.
In the comments, okay? Now that we've got character designs and character models out of the way, let's talk about character progression. Part of this is related to one of the topics that I covered in my last video, which was Genshin Impact's artifacts versus echoes in Wuthering Waves. So I'm not going to belabor that particular point too much, other than to say in Wuthering Waves, I have multiple characters either fully built or built good enough. In Genshin Impact, I grinded for months and I still have mostly dog shit artifacts on my C2 Raiden Shogun. But that's not the point about character progression that I really want to bring home.
Give us more tubes. Give us more echo tubes, please. Give us more echo tubes. I beg.
here. What I actually want to focus on is character skill progression. In both games, the max skill cap is at level 10. Okay, that's not entirely true. In Genshin Impact, you can get past level 10 by getting constellations or copies of a particular character. But let's forgo that for a minute and just say that the level cap for both games is 10. Now, in Genshin Impact, in order to level up a skill from level 9 to level 10, you need this item called a Crown of Insight. Usually, we just call them crowns. They are very, very limited. You can get a few of them just from playing the game.
This is true.
But once you have gotten all of the ones that you can get from playing the game, that's it.
Talents are a huge source of damage boost in Genshin. Basically, any like Honkai Star Rail, Genshin, Wuwa, your talents are really, really important. So in Wuwa, it's just a bit grindy. It's a bit time-gated grindy, right? Like every gacha currently is. Genshin's the same way, apart from those crowns. The problem that I have with the crowns, like Soless is saying, is that there's so few of them. You can't decide to crown everybody and everything. So you're actually missing out on a bunch of damage and a bunch of like progression in your character behind, like, it's not just time gating. It's like uber like time gating. And I just don't like that.
The only time that you can get more of them after that is from limited time events, or whenever they release a big patch and there's a new area and new main story.
It forces you to come back, which is not a terrible thing on its own, but it's just annoying. It's the only way to progress.
You are gated from maxing out your character's skills to level 10, and so you can't maximize your character's power and damage unless you use one of those crowns. And then, like I said, they're very
double time
limited,
gating.
so you have to be quite picky and choosy about which characters and which skills you use them on. I'm gonna go ahead and just say now that this is absolutely ridiculous, and it took playing Wuthering Waves for me to realize that, because in Wuthering Waves there is no special item that you need to use to max out your skills. You can max out every single skill for every single character with just the mats that you need for that character. So all you have to do in order to max out all your skills is just grind. Simple as that. Now, a minute ago, I mentioned getting extra copies of a character. So let's talk about that for both games now. For each character in both games, you can get up to 6 extra copies. In Genshin Impact, they are called Constellations, and in Wuthering Waves, they are called Sequences. If you only have one copy of a character in Genshin Impact, you would call that C0. In Wuthering Waves, you would call it S0. But then if you were to pull 6 more copies of the same character, then it would be C6 or S6. Here's the thing about it in Genshin Impact though. At least 2 of the 6 constellations are always pointless, because all they do is add 3 extra points to one of your skill levels. In Wuthering Waves...
Do I agree with that it's pointless? Do I agree that it's pointless? No, because I think the extra skill levels in the talents is actually like a pretty, like, decent chunk of a... It's basically a flat, like, damage buff, usually, right? And I think most people... Do you know what? The funny thing is, most people would prefer that... What would constellations or dupes do? Most people could agree the best type of gachas are the ones where, like, getting dupes, the only thing they do is give you flat stat buffs. People argue that that is actually the best way. Don't have any unique tips or tricks or new ways for your characters to play hidden behind dupes. That's not a cool way, but a straight, like, damage buff is actually, like, a really good thing, right? So really, people would actually want all the constellations to be like that. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You don't have to get an S6 of a character to fully unlock their kit, either for Genshin or Wuwa. Instead, your dupes just give you straight up buffs, stat buffs. So I don't actually think that that's, like, a bad thing.
None of the sequences are like that. All 6 of them add value in some way to the character's kit, in a way that is more exciting than just adding extra points to your skill. And that's a whole nother topic that I'm not going to deep dive here, but the character kits in Wuthering Waves are way more complex than the character kits in Genshin Impact. If I had to make a...
Well, there's more ways to deal damage in Wuthering Waves than there is in Genshin Impact, right? There's like intro skills, outro skills, your heavy attacks, your basic attacks, your resist liberation. There's a lot of like actual other ways of physically dealing your damage. So therefore the kits will inherently be more complicated, right?
a terrible analogy about it, I would say that Genshin Impact is like playing Lego Star Wars, while Wuthering Waves is like playing Jedi Fallen Order. It's a terrible analogy, yes, but you get the point. But in Wuthering Waves, all of the sequences that you get for a character are typically meaningful and add complexity to the kit, and sometimes can change the way that you actually play a character. Now, that's not to say that some of the constellations
they both do
in
that,
Genshin
right?
Impact are also not impactful or
Sure they both do
meaningful.
that.
That's not what I'm saying. I am just saying that I think it's stupid that 2 out of the 6 constellations do nothing but add 3 points to a skill, especially.
I like that, and I wish every gacha that was the case. We get their full kits, their character's full potential, straight away, not hidden behind dupes, and that the only thing dupes do is give us flat damage buffs. I don't know if that's a hot take of mine, but that's what I wanted Constellations and dupes to be. Straight up stat buffs, all of them. And our characters are already cool to play with from the minute we get them. That's what I want.
Considering how much money and or resources it costs to get copies of a character. And speaking of how getting extra copies of characters is better in Wuthering Waves, let's talk a minute about the free-to-play friendliness of both games. In Wuthering Waves, it is significantly easier both to get a 5-star character and to get copies of a 5-star character. Unlike some of the other stuff, this is not my opinion, this is a fact, and it is for 2 reasons. Well, 3 actually, but one of them I already covered in my last video, and that's that the banners for Wuthering Waves are better because the hard pity for a 5-star character is at 80 pity in Wuthering Waves as opposed to 90 pity in Genshin Impact. But besides that, there are 2 more factual reasons that this is also the case. The first reason is that Kuro Games is only releasing.
So, like, Cookie Run Kingdom. Yeah, Cookie Run Kingdom, the Jujutsu Kaisen Fighter Parade, like, Fate Grand Order, I believe. The dupes give you stat buffs, like, flat stat buffs, and they don't change your character's kit. Your character already comes out how they intend it to. And it's just, I think it's just so much better. I genuinely think that's such a better model to do. And I think having hidden any kind of, like, kit enhancements behind dupes is just kind of, like, Genshin or Wuwa, it doesn't matter if Genshin does it more or more severely. They both hide like buffs to your kits, in particular, behind dupes. I would much rather we get the characters cool as they are, and you basically are paying for literal to make them more powerful. Just stop. I genuinely think that would make everyone so much happier. I think it would be good for the space. It is inherently predatory to hide stuff behind like dupes like that in gachas. You know what I mean?
1 new 5-star character per patch. The second character.
Hello? Hi. Give me a second. Just to update everybody, I just crashed because my chat literally exploded my PC.
Oh my PC!
But I forgot what we were talking about. Oh yeah, we were debating how dupes work and what people want. And I finally came to the conclusion that chat wants gachas to lock features behind dupes. For some reason, chat would prefer to want to spend for it rather than just have flat stat buffs for dupes, which I find crazy.
More exciting than just adding extra points to your skill. And that's a whole nother topic that I'm not going to deep dive here, but the character kits in Wuthering Waves are way more complex than the character kits in Genshin Impact. If I had to make a terrible analogy about it, I would say that Genshin Impact is like playing Lego Star Wars, while Wuthering Waves is like playing Jedi Fallen Order. It's a terrible analogy, yes, but you get the point. But in Wuthering Waves, all of the sequences that you get for a character are typically meaningful and add complexity to the kit, and sometimes can change the way that you actually play a character. Now, that's not to say that some of the constellations in Genshin Impact are also not impactful or meaningful. That's not what I'm saying. I am just saying that I think it's stupid that 2 out of the 6 constellations do nothing but add 3 points to a skill, especially considering how much money and or resources it costs to get copies of a character. And speaking of how getting extra copies of characters is better in Wuthering Waves, let's talk a minute about the free-to-play friendliness of both games. In Wuthering Waves, it is significantly easier both to get a 5-star character and to get
miles
copies
better.
of a 5-star character. Unlike some of the other stuff, this is not my opinion. This is a fact, and it is for 2 reasons. Well, 3 actually, but one of them I already covered in my last video.
I feel now that I've started to play PGR as well, it's just a Kuro thing. Do I think they were a bit more generous because of the launch? Yes. But are Kuro overall more generous? Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious, right?
And that's that the banners for Wuthering Waves are better because the hard pity for a 5-star character is at 80.
At this point, comparing both games give rise to more fights. I agree. But I think it's also a valid way to give like criticism, because if you compare one thing to another, say this thing is better, therefore this other game should take into consideration, is also a fine thing to do. You know what I mean?
Pity in Wuthering Waves as opposed to 90 pity in Genshin Impact. But besides that, there are 2 more factual reasons that this is also the case.
Factual?
The first reason is that Kuro Games is only releasing 1 new 5-star character per patch. The second character in a patch is always a rerun of a...
Is it? 1.0 we had Gion, then we had Yinlin. 1.1 we had Jinshi, then Changli. 1.2 we had Zerza and Shangli Yao. 1.3 we had Shoki, then 1.4 we had Camellia. I don't think this isn't just true, right? I think that's because they're just spacing out the characters for the patches for 2.0. But yeah, they're doing reruns now, but like that's not the standard, right? That's not like Wooer's only doing 1 patch per thing. That's only for 1.3 and 1.4. I think that's the exception, right?
Previous character. So what does this mean? It means that you don't have to shell out all of your resources every single time that the banner switches. That is, unless you really want or really need the rerun characters.
I feel like this isn't wholly applicable, but okay.
So essentially what that means is you have more time to save up your resources to make sure that you get the new characters that you want. In Genshin Impact, they release 2 new 5-star characters per patch. So you're either going to have to skip
I feel
one,
this is a really,
or you
really
are shelling
unfair
out
comparison.
everything.
Just because Wooer had it in 1.3 or 1.4 does not mean that that's the gold standard. That's what they're choosing to do. This is very, very like cherry-picked, narrow information that he's saying. I don't know why, when like that's just not the case.
Including whatever is left of your wallet to get both of the characters if you want them. And in Genshin, the only way to get extra copies of a character is by pulling on them in the actual banner. In Wuthering Waves, once you have got your first copy of a character from the banner, you are able to go into the in-game shop and purchase 2 additional copies of that.
Yes, you can, but the amount of corals it takes means you would have to have pulled a ridiculous amount of times already. It's not, like, it seems like a good thing. You could kind of save your corals, but like the amount of times you actually have to physically pull to get enough corals to do that is like a tremendous amount. So it like the option's there, but it's not as like an amazing thing as you might think. Do you know what I mean? Just, you know.
Character using a currency called coral, which you obtain naturally from pulling on banners over time. This makes it way, way easier to get extra copies of a
I disagree
character.
that it's easier.
Let me show you this.
I disagree that it's easier. Because the amount of pulls you have to do is ridiculous. People really aren't going to save just to pull that one more constellation. I think they just rather use their corals for like new pulls. And that's really it. No one's going to really get the wave bands that way unless you're just super dedicated to one character. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
This is my Camellia, and
easier
as you
for
can
whales,
see,
yeah.
she is
Exactly,
S5.
it's for whales.
And if you think that
Not
I
for
had
your
to
free-to-play
spend a
person.
bunch of money to get this, you would be wrong. The last time that I topped up in the shop, believe it or not, was during the Shorekeeper banner. I had a little bit left over from that, but the rest I was able to save. Now, before you grab your pitchforks, let me be 100% real here. I had an insanely good stream of luck with this one. One copy came early at like 40-something
Nah,
pulls,
I have the best
and
stream
then
of luck.
I got 2 literally
I got
back
6
to back,
geodes in
and
like
I won
180
3
pulls.
50/50s.
I am
This
the
is
best.
probably the
then
best
I got
luck that
Camellia
I have
13.
ever had in any gacha game ever. But overall, I was able to buy 2 of the copies from the shop, and then I got 4 from the banner. And I didn't spend a single extra dollar to do that unless you count the little bit that I had left over from the Shorekeeper banner. If you think that this is insane, don't worry, so do I. But to be completely fair, even if I had had bad luck, I think I would still have her at S3. So next time
yeah, and I
you hear
have two
somebody
Geon's weapon
arguing
too.
about the irrelevant and mostly guesswork numbers from the Sensor Tower report, maybe just consider that the reason that people may not be blowing their life savings on the Camellia banner or any other banner is simply because they didn't have to. Okay, so now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about gameplay. To be more specific,
Ooh.
I want to talk about meta for both games. I have had a lot of people tell me that they would like to add elemental reactions to Wuthering Waves, but I'm going to tell you why that is a terrible idea. And
Why?
let me start by
Why? That's
asking you
interesting.
a
Why?
question. Let's say you have a brand new player to Genshin Impact. He or she is having a fun time and they want to learn more about team building and they want to know which characters they should pull. So they go check out some YouTube videos, some Reddit threads, maybe join a couple of Discords. And what do you think that they're going to do after that? You're damn right. They're about to build themselves a Hyperbloom team.
Sure.
Because why in the hell wouldn't they do that? You build a Hyperbloom team.
But this is also assuming, but this really depends on what characters you already have. This is already assuming you have all the characters to make a really good Hyperbloom team. For all you know, you might have the characters that actually will be better served having a better DPS that isn't Hyperbloom because you might not have the right Hyperbloom characters in the first place, right? Like, I know Hyperbloom is the ceiling when it comes to DPS, but it really depends on what characters you have.
With minimal investment, you press a few buttons and everything in front of you drops dead. Congratulations, you have beat the game. You have won Genshin Impact. And this is why elemental reactions would be a poor addition to Wuthering Waves. The meta for Wuthering Waves is nearly as good as it can possibly get. That is to say that the meta doesn't really exist. Now,
Sure.
for team building, there are definitely optimal ways to do it. You want to build a team with the
I would kind of like to see a bit more streamlined playstyles in WoW that are kind of obvious. I'm not talking about that becomes meta, but like a certain way to play would be kind of cool.
same basic structure.
So logo Hyperbloom is outdated now from what I've heard. Cool.
Typically a main DPS, a sub DPS, and a support / healer. And you want to try and make sure that
Like, I don't use Hyperbloom at all. And my best team is like the washing machine Nouvelette team. Nouvelette I use for Arena, I use Baizi, and then I use Yaimiko. Or Fischl, depending on the situation. And that does way more damage than any of my Hyperbloom teams. So it just is kind of dependent.
the intro skills and outro skills of the characters vibe with each other. But the thing is, there's no one singular team or singular meta that completely takes over the game. It's a lot more about skill expression, and really, you can kind of do whatever the hell you want. And because there are no elemental reactions, it will probably always be that way. Hell, there's a 4-star character.
I kind of wish there was, not like this in the same way as Genshin, but they did a little bit more with the elements. Because right now it just feels like, oh, you're just doing fusion damage. There's nothing like, it's just resistances. We kind of mentioned this in the podcast. It's just kind of like enemies have like resistances to the type of damage. And that's really it. Like, the elements almost feel not pointless, but it's just a way of identifying what the damage resistance the enemy will have and how the character might look with their attacks, rather than the elements actually do anything or be useful. Do you know what I mean?
Named Donjin, and if you build her right and you are good with her, you can solo hologram bosses. Alright, so let me know what you think down in the comments below. I had a lot of fun making this video, and contrary to
elemental
what the
effects,
Genshin
yeah,
community...
exactly. I think elemental effects would be actually kind of nice to have. Elements is a cuck mechanic at the moment. I mean, most of the games like this, elements will take relevance. Yeah. Dot debuff against enemies can be nice, yeah, something like that. Like, it's kind of what I'm thinking. So any gacha that uses elemental reactions like Genshin, yeah, I'm not talking about implementing Genshin's literal elemental, like, reaction and mixing system, but some kind of effect, right, that happens to the enemy. Hello? Hello? Alright, let me outro this properly. Thank you so much to Soless for giving us this video today. I appreciate this beautiful bald bastard very much. The points he raised spawned a lot of really interesting conversation with chat. We had a lot to talk about with this one, so I can't wait for the comments to be a bit of a fight and grab PvP. Oh, Cab's back with another spicy take. Oh, what a surprise, okay? I appreciate y'all, and thank you to my chat. Remember, go to Soless, subscribe to him, like his video, give a comment on his channel. Give me a subscribe if you like some of the takes that we have. had, chat had. I appreciate y'all. Remember to like, comment, subscribe on this video. Come join me, twitch.tv Cabinetz every day, 2 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. GMT every single day. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.